Hello, and welcome to the Florida Nurse Practitioner, ranked as one of the best medical podcasts in Florida. This is the official podcast of the Florida Association of Nurse Practitioners, the premier APRN advocacy organization in Florida for all nurse practitioners. If you are not a member, you should be. Join today. Just go to flanp.org and click on the red box, Become a Member Today. Members get all kinds of perks, including discounted CEUs, including autonomous practice recertification CEUs, insurance discounts, free monthly CEUs, and plenty more. So join today and make your voice heard. Help us help you. We are here to support all APRNs in Florida to practice to our fullest ability of our education and elevate the APRN profession in Florida. I'm Paul Bond, APRN, your host for this show, and I want to thank you for listening to the show and helping make it one of the 10 best-ranked medical podcasts in Florida. And on today's show, inflammation. We'll discuss biomarkers for it and potential ways to help treat your patients. So stay tuned. But first up, some housekeeping as usual. Hello, and welcome to the first podcast of 2025. The association continues to grow and remains the largest APRN advocacy organization in the state, and we're set for even more growth and positive changes this year, 2025. One of those changes will be this show. I'll be doing more interviews with both APRNs in Florida and others, so look for discussions on topics such as legislative changes, business issues, and possibly even some of our presenters from the annual conference. And speaking of the 2025 annual conference, the dates are set for April 30th to May 2nd, and we are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the APRN profession. We've come a long way, but we have much more to accomplish, especially here in Florida. This year we've added a second track for presentations. As always, we'll be having a patient care-related topics track, but we've also now added a business topics track. So save the date. We'll be in Central Florida again just like last year. So come out and join us and learn, network, and have a great time. The call for abstracts at this point is closed, and the conference committee is going through the large number of abstracts we've already received. No matter which ones are chosen, the conference promises to be bigger and better than ever. If you missed last year's, I promise you don't want to miss this one. And if you were there at last year's, you know how great it was. Just imagine it being even bigger and better. So come on out and join us for a lot of fun, networking, and great learning opportunities. And attendees will have access to online educational opportunities also. Altogether, it's a great value and one I don't think you'll really find anywhere else in Florida. And I'll be streaming the show live from the conference this year. I'll be talking to presenters and attendees about the conference in real time, so be on the lookout for some live shows over the conference. We're also planning on live streaming, so be on the lookout on Facebook for this too. Also, our best-selling book, the Florida Nurse Practitioner Handbook, continues to be widely accepted as a go-to reference. Everything from licensure issues to scope of practice to autonomous nursing in Florida to employment issues is covered. We wrote this book in part because we field numerous questions every week on APRN practice issues. So while some may say all you need to do is read the relevant Florida statutes or go to the Board of Nursing webpage, this is in practice not the case. And in that there are multiple statutes that may pertain to your question, and you can also spend hours or days just researching the answer and still not have the answer to your questions. Our our handbook does all those hours of research for you. Second, we explain things in more detail and less legal jargon than the statutes. State statutes are written by lawyers for lawyers. Our book was written by nurse practitioners who actually practice in Florida for Florida nurse practitioners. So if you haven't gotten your copy of it yet, you should seriously consider it. It will save you hours of time just researching the law and may just help steer you clear of meeting the board nursing under less than ideal circumstances. It's available as a physical paperback book or a digital download on Amazon, so get yours today. And last but certainly not least, the APRN Business Practice Ownership Committee is up and running. Do you own your own practice? Are you considering starting one? This committee is for you. Contact the association for more information on how to join and how to help this committee. And now for the news you can use. As you know, if you listen to the show, I'm a huge proponent of reducing overall inflammation in the body. Inflammation has been linked to most every chronic disease known to man, including cancer. Well, more and more research is focusing on this very topic and the use of nutritional supplements and/or dietary changes to accomplish this reduction. Most of the articles I have for you today actually covered this subject. The first one is from 15 November 2024 from Nature Aging, entitled The Effect of Nicotinamide Riboside on Airway Inflammation in COPD, a randomized placebo-controlled trial. This was a relatively small study of about 40 patients, but with very promising results. COPD is the third leading cause of death worldwide and is responsible for a huge amount of healthcare spending. DNA damage and loss of the central metabolite nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide, or NAD+, may contribute to both aging and COPD. Think about what I just said. Not just COPD, but also the aging process. Participants received either 2 grams a day of nicotinamide riboside, a member of the vitamin B3 family, or a placebo. After 6 weeks, researchers saw a 53% drop in the markers of inflammation, specifically interleukin 8. After 12 more weeks of vitamin therapy, the effect increased to 63%. Nicotinamide riboside is a precursor of NAD in the human body, and NAD is important in metabolism in the body as well as the Krebs or citric acid cycle. This is very promising research, and by the way, is exactly what functional medicine has been doing for the last decade plus. So for your COPD patients, consider placing them all on a B-complex vitamin. And next up, another study of vitamin B3, this time for mortality risk reduction. This is from 16 November 2024 from Nature Scientific Reports, titled Association of Dietary Niacin Intake with All-Cause Cardiovascular Mortality, National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, 2003 to 2018. This study included 24,746 U.S. adults aged 20 and older from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey from 2003 to 2018, with a median follow-up of 9.17 years. During this period, there were 3,551 all-cause deaths, including 1,096 cardiovascular deaths. Participants in the highest dietary niacin intake had a lower risk of all-cause mortality and cardiovascular mortality compared to those in the lowest quartile. Excuse me. One interesting finding, consistent with other research on niacin, is that it does slightly increase the risk of becoming diabetic. One such study from 2015 was a meta-analysis of 11 trials with 26,340 non-diabetic participants. Researchers in this meta-analysis found one additional case of diabetes per 43 initial non-diabetic individuals who were treated with niacin for 5 years. So high-dose therapy may not be the best, but considering putting your patients on a B-complex supplement based on the assessment of the patient's dietary pattern may be beneficial. And next, from 3 January 2025, from U.S. News and World Report, Best Diets List. The 15th edition of the Best Diets shifts from ranking diets to rating diets examining 38 diets among 21 categories. The Mediterranean diet is again the most highly rated diet across many categories, the best of the best among 2025 best diets. It ranked number 1 overall, also for mental health, diabetes, gut health, and easiest diet to follow. It ranked number 2 for weight loss, heart health, and menopause diets. And here again, as APRNs, we are expertly positioned to use this information to help our patients. Dietary changes can go a long way to change overall health, so educate your patients about using the Mediterranean diet. They will see a difference. And next up, 8 July 2024 from the Annals of Medicine, biomarkers reflecting insulin resistance increase the risk of aortic stenosis in a population-based study of 10,144 Finnish men. In this study, researchers sought to investigate a comprehensive panel of biomarkers and risk of aortic stenosis, or AS, in a prospective population-based study. Again, 10,144 Finnish men without AS at baseline were used. Cases of AS were identified from the medical records, which was diagnosed in 116 or 1.1% of the participants. They found fasting, 30-minute and 120-minute plasma insulin and proinsulin, Matsuda index, CRP, in addition to age, systolic blood pressure, BMI, waist circumference, waist to hip ratio, height, body mass fat, fat-free mass, were all indicative of increased risk for AS. The Matsuda index is an index used to evaluate whole body physiological insulin sensitivity from the data obtained by oral glucose tolerance testing. There are online calculators for it, so if you're not already using it, consider adding these biomarkers as well as the Matsuda index to your prevention panels. They all have multiple uses, including reducing inflammation, which we're discussing today in more detail. And next up, 22 December 2024 from MedRxiv preprints, colchicine for prevention of major adverse cardiovascular events, a systemic review and meta-analysis of randomized controlled trials. This was a meta-analysis of 10 randomized controlled clinical trials enrolling 22,532 patients. The primary outcome was the occurrence of major adverse cardiovascular events, or MACE, a composite of cardiovascular death, myocardial infarction, and stroke. They found that the addition of colchicine to standard medical treatment in patients with established ASCVD reduced the risk for MACE by 27%, with a number needed to treat of 52. Colchicine was found to significantly reduce the risk of myocardial infarction and coronary revascularization. There were no significant differences between the two groups concerning cardiovascular and non-cardiovascular mortality, risk of serious gastrointestinal issues, infections requiring hospitalization, or cancer. Colchicine is a potent and widely available anti-inflammatory agent extracted from plants of the genus Colchicum, and has been widely used in the treatment of inflammatory diseases such as gout, familial Mediterranean fever, and pericarditis with good efficacy and safety profiles. Its anti-inflammatory effects involve multiple pathways, including inhibition of microtubule formation and neutrophil function. Now, we all know dietary and lifestyle modifications are the best way to decrease mortality risk overall, but many times adherence to this can be tricky. Using colchicine as an adjunct for secondary prevention may be a benefit to your patients, so consider adding this to your treatment toolbox. And next, from December 2024 edition of the Mayo Clinic Proceedings, association of plasma omega-3 levels with incident heart failure and related mortalities. Researchers looked at 271,794 patients from the UK Biobank between April 1, 2007 and December 31, 2010. In participants without heart failure at baseline, a generally linear inverse association was observed between omega-3 levels and incident heart failure during a median follow-up of 13.7 years. The risk was 21% lower in the highest quintile of omega-3 compared with the lowest quintile in multivariable models. In parallel models in participants with prevalent heart failure, risks for all-cause and CV mortality were both reduced by approximately 50% compared top to bottom omega-3 quintiles. Researchers concluded that, quote, higher plasma levels of marine omega-3 fatty acids were associated with a lower incidence of heart failure. Furthermore, among patients with pre-existing heart failure, higher omega-3 levels were associated with lower risk of all-cause mortality and CV mortality, end quote. Now, both Quest and LabCorp, as well as other labs, offer blood tests for omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. So using these tests, providers can visually show patients where their levels of both omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids are and help them devise ways to get a better balance. Ideally, a ratio of omega-6 to 3 of 4:1 or less is considered healthy. Dietary changes, including the Mediterranean diet, as we previously discussed, can be of great benefit here. For those who don't eat fish, supplementation with high-quality omega-3s may be advisable. So this, again, is something to add to your toolbox and help set yourself apart from other practitioners. And next, 16 December 2024, from the University of South Denmark, Danish diabetes medicine increases the risk of severely debilitating eye condition. In two separate studies, researchers identified a relationship between the use of Ozempic, or semaglutide, and non-arteritic anterior ischemic optic neuropathy, which causes damage to the optic nerve and permanent blindness. They examined data from all 424,152 Danes with type 2 diabetes. They found that Ozempic more than doubles the risk of developing NAOIN. This is a relatively large set of studies, and loss of sight is a potentially major complication. Researchers did stress, however, that left untreated, diabetes can lead to other changes and complications in the eyes, as well as leading to blindness. And although these conditions are less severe than the damage caused to the optic nerve by NAOIN, they are much more common. It is therefore not their intention to advise diabetic patients to stop their treatment or stop Ozempic. Although this is a serious but rare side effect, for those prescribing semaglutide for either diabetes or weight loss, it is something to keep in mind. And next, 3 January 2024, from the U.S. Surgeon General, he issued a new advisory on a link between alcohol and cancer risk. The U.S. Surgeon General issues an advisory discussing the link between alcohol consumption and at least 7 different types of cancer, including throat, liver, esophageal, mouth, larynx, colon, and rectal cancers. Alcohol consumption has been named as the 3rd leading preventable cause of cancer in the country, the advisory board noted, with tobacco and obesity taking the top 2 spots. It also notes alcohol as a well-established preventable cause of cancer, responsible for about 100,000 cases of cancer and 20,000 cancer deaths annually in the United States, greater than the 13,500 alcohol-associated traffic fatalities per year in the U.S., yet the majority of Americans are unaware of this risk. Alcohol increases cancer in 4 potentially different ways. First, it breaks down into acetaldehyde, which damages DNA, increasing the risk of cancer. Second, it induces oxidative stress, which damages protein, DNA, and cells, and also causes inflammation. Third, alcohol changes hormone levels, namely estrogen, which can increase the risk of breast cancer. More than 16% of all breast cancer cases have been linked to alcohol. And finally, cancer creates conditions in which alcohol is more easily absorbed into the body. So consider counseling all of your patients to avoid alcohol consumption at all. Either way, data has shown alcohol has some potential. Earlier data has shown that alcohol has had some potential benefits, but this latest advisory brings to light new major problems with alcohol consumption, so it may be best to avoid it altogether. And that's all I've got for you today. As always, I sincerely appreciate those of you who listen to and follow the show. It's because of you the show is ranked one of the 10 best medical podcasts in Florida. Thank you all for listening to the Florida Nurse Practitioner Podcast, a production of the Florida Association of Nurse Practitioners, the largest APRN advocacy group in Florida, and the group that literally wrote the book on APRN practice in the state. Our groundbreaking book, the Florida Nurse Practitioner Handbook, continues to be used by more APRNs and is being used in multiple APRN education programs throughout Florida. So get your copy today at Amazon, either as a physical paperback or digital download. And, as usual, don't forget to save the date for our annual conference, which will be in Orlando again this year, April 30th to May 2nd. Save those dates and come out and join us for some fun, networking, and a lot of great education. As always, this is Paul Bond, APRN, for the Florida Nurse Practitioner Podcast, a presentation of the Florida Association of Nurse Practitioners, the premier organization for all APRNs in Florida, and the largest statewide APRN organization in the state. Thanks for joining me today, and have a great day.